Hello, everyone. This is W, also known as William, host of the High Art on the Edge page, host of 2 podcast features. The first one, PCE, what does that stand for? Post Concert Energy. And the one you're listening to right now is Surprise Cast. We have 2 surprise guests here in the Surprise Cast studio. Let us bring them in. Surprise Cast guest number 1.
Hi, I'm Peter Duggal. I'm a producer and composer and amongst other things.
Could you tell the listeners, Peter, where you are podcasting from?
I am in a nice place called Hebden Bridge in West Yorkshire in the UK. At the edge of the Pennines.
I've heard lovely things about this place, yeah?
It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Yeah, I love it very much.
Let us bring on our next guest.
I here in Düsseldorf, electricity from Germany, where everything started with electronic pop music. I'm still here, still alive, and have still fun in making music. With this man on the other side, it's Peter Duggal in Hebden Bridge.
Hello, Wolfgang. I've never been to Düsseldorf. Could you give the listeners a little bit of taste of what it's like?
It's beautiful here. Come over and have a look. We have the nicest old town with the longest check for the clubs and bars with the old beer brewed in Düsseldorf. Wonderful. And the River Rhine, this big stream, is floating hereby through the whole country. And I live 10 minutes from there, where I can walk with my wife. We have a wonderful nature around with forests and woods, and it's great. And the city is pretty elegant and rich. So there's money inside. Come here.
Well, sounds like I better get my arse over there. And I will do someday.
Good.
Okay, before we really get into the belly of the conversation, I want the listeners to understand this is going to be broken up into several little parts here. And it's based on this idea I had from a book called How to Write One Song, written by the legendary frontman for the band Wilco, Jeff Tweedy. And I'm going to read a quote here. And Peter, I'm going to start with you. And he says this: long before I wrote my first song, I thought of myself as a songwriter. I would say to people, guess what? I'm a songwriter. Not, I might like to try my hand at songwriting someday. Just, yep, I'm a songwriter. It was bonkers. I think I was around 7 years old. I was delusional. I was a delusional 7-year-old. Are you a songwriter? Do you consider yourself to be one?
Not really, actually, interestingly. I consider myself more someone who puts ideas together and collages and sounds and pieces. I mean, I do write songs, but that's not where I start from. I tend to start from somewhere else, really. Things just sometimes develop into songs, ideas develop into songs, but I don't start with the idea I'm going to write a song, if that's what you mean. I never really describe myself as a songwriter. I always find it quite difficult describing what I do, to be honest with you. I just like sound. I like making sounds and I like making noises, Sometimes those noises and sounds might turn into little passages or just little soundtracks or little snippets. Sometimes I take them into full-blown songs because that's where they end up going. And obviously collaborating as well with working alongside Wolfgang, then we take them in a direction together and they generally end up as songs, that the pieces we work on. But no, I've never really thought I was a songwriter in that traditional sense.
Do you consider yourself an artist or a musician?
Come on,
I'm probably more of an artist. Yeah, I suppose I am a musician. I mean, I don't.
Dated. You are a full artist and musician. You go on stage.
I mean, I do.
That's an
do.
artist.
I know. I think Wolf thinks I'm a bit modest when it comes to this stuff, but but it's not. I mean, probably
this
more of an
guy.
artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He knows me well. Yeah, I think a bit of both, really. But I think when I was growing up, a musician was definitely someone who, was very, very talented and at their instrument, and they devoted their whole life to their instrument. I tended to just play everything. So drums, guitar, bass, anything I could get my hands on, I would try and play. So I never devoted myself just to one instrument, really. And so, yeah, I suppose, I mean, yes, I'm a musician, I guess, because I play musical instruments and I make music with them. So that's the definition of a musician, right?
Absolutely. Wolfgang, can you respond to that quote, please?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a songwriter since 1973. That's a bit late in my age, but it came through different circumstances. When I was with my former band Kraftwerk, I did not write one note and not one lyrics, not one sentence. I was a drummer, as you know. So when I was on my own, I came by a special situation to write a song that was my first song after Kraftwerk, and it was just by chance. I had a pressure on my heart because we had that horrible Bosnian war, which was very near to Europe, and I saw always these horrible pictures in the TV, and my heart was bleeding, and I saw my first lyrics writing a little child about the rescue of children and babies from a children's home in Sarajevo. And that is why I wrote this lyrics, rhymes, with a little bit help of my former friend Emil Schult, who was also a member of Kraftwerk. So we were friendly still. And then I had my first melody to sing it, how to sing it. And I recorded it with a friend of mine, a young man who had a home studio under the furniture company of his papa in the cellar. And we recorded my first song. And that was absolutely new land for me and made me proud. And to think by myself, I can do without this famous band, There came some pop up. I must switch that off, this shit pop up. And yeah, but my first record came out in 1997, this Tampa album with EMI Electrona, and I had my first record deal. And my name was printed on it as a lyricist, as the words responsible and for the melodies. So music, I became more and more proud of me that I can do that. I always had a partner on my side, I must really confess. That was Andy Thoma. It's Peter. So both were very good for this period. Especially the 1997 era was so important to me that I could produce a complete album with someone who knew a lot of technique in his home studio. And Andy was really a good guy, a good one who knew everything. And he had old instruments. So these old synthesizers. And I played my last drum set then in that track. And anyway, it was much fun. It took nearly a year. That was an entry for a complete new Wolfgang Flür era. I was a composer and a songwriter.
Shedding some old skin and creating a new identity for yourself. Yes.
So I changed my life several times in my whole life, from anything to another thing. I'm always improving, always developing. And since I know Peter, we notice that also how often we change and improve with working together. Tracks which become more complicated. We had done some tracks that were so complicated, we needed for months to get finally done them, that we were fine with them, but that we said, this is now the end. We cannot do better now. But I think it's such an interesting work together that we see how much we can spread our ideas and in our work. It becomes like in a stereo range, more wide and more wide, how we work together, That's interesting feeling and interesting sight.
I can tell, and I've never been around you two ever before, but I can tell there's a great a tremendous amount of respect that you hold for one another. Peter, tell us a little bit about your friendship with Wolfgang. How did that develop, if you wouldn't mind sharing?
I think we met in 2015, so just over 10 years ago. And Wolfgang was here in Hebden Bridge doing a show. And I actually picked Wolfgang up from the airport and his lovely wife, Sue. And on the way back, we just had really good chemistry and we hit it off. We didn't really talk about, I don't think I even mentioned I wrote music or anything, but we just became friends, and we were laughing. By the time we got to Hebden Bridge from Leeds Airport, it was like we'd known each other a long time. The first album has a photograph on the back, which was taken literally 45 minutes after we met, of us laughing at each other in the street, and it's kind of symbolic of how things just progressed so naturally. And then the next day, I mentioned to Wolfgang when I was dropping him back at the airport that I wrote music, and he listened to some of my music, and then we just developed we were talking, we were conversing, we were swapping ideas, and it grew very naturally into a project as well afterwards. But yeah, it was underpinned by a quite strong friendship, the whole thing, which is what's so nice about it.
Since 2015, Peter, and your collaborations with Wolfgang, tell the listeners and me some great wisdom, some great learning experiences that have come about whilst working with him.
So one of the things I really love about Wolfgang, which I think he, like he said, was probably suppressed with his former band, is that he has a real gift of melody, a real gift of storytelling, lyric writing, and I've learned a lot from him through that, and guiding. There's just the bits that it's like a jigsaw, we join together where our ideas meet, and we tend to just grow things very, very easily and naturally. Occasionally, there's a tiny bit of friction because there always is with art, right? And I'd be worried if there wasn't, frankly, because, it wouldn't be that interesting then. Right? We've both got quite strong ideas about things. And I think the blend of those ideas and the chemistry, that's where, to me, the kind of magic happens and the mystery and all the beauty in art when you're collaborating with someone. You can't really explain where it comes from. It just sort of comes from somewhere and can't quite tell where it comes from. But Wolfgang will just send me a melody sometimes and that's it. It's just I'm off, in a different world for the next few weeks, and we're bouncing that back and forth, and just the most beautiful, simple melodies, and it's really, I suppose that's the most beautiful thing creatively.
We'll go deeper into more of your collaborations a little bit later, but Wolfgang, would you like to share a complimentary word or two for your friend in terms of what has he brought to your life since you're...
Yeah, Peter said already that when we met the first time, we noticed, as we have been friends of brothers nearly, so we had the same humor and we laughed all the time in the car. But at least he was my boss because he engaged me and he paid me for that show at the Hebden Bridge Trades Club, a wonderful club, by the way, where many famous bands play. And that was the first time I was in that venue. And so he knew what music I bring live on stage. And he gave me some of his music in a CD and some SoundCloud ideas where I listened the first time to his music, which was absolutely impressive to me because I thought this is kind of film music to me. Every sound, every soundscapes he recorded told a story to me, and I'm a kind of visionary. I have very often, very fast, an idea about what happens there. So I'm also an actor, when I go into a track which I have written the lyrics, then I play it. Then I play this. Mostly it's a person where we write on stories about, and I could even feel like a lady, not. I'm an actor at least. And as said, the thing what I've learned from him is the totally and very fast understanding what we need in the music. story in a track, when we create parts, and what should be added, a B part or a C part, or the whole thing should be go to another level, which we like to go away from the music in another level of the tonality of the rhythm and come back at least into the track or straight into the lyrics, And he's a specialist in making his arpeggios. He's the arpeggio king to me. That is one of his fine arts, and you can hear it properly in each track, and that makes so fluently the music we do together. So I love Peter's work. I love him in person anyway, and his whole family, his children, and we are my wife too, by the way. We have been so often together. As Peter recently said, we have played meanwhile, I think 62 or 63 shows together in these 10 years. And if you want to know about a person, travel with him. That's an old wise advice. Travel with him, then you learn to know him, and that was always fun when we are on that. That's the other thing. Even if maybe it is not so full, the house, the venue, but we have mostly fun when we are together. The only shit is that I have always to fly over, and that is split with a lot of not so good adventures with the airlines. We have many experience that my wife and I didn't like. But anyway, we love England, and I love England. I'm not successful in Germany, I must tell you. This is an important sentence which I tell you now. I'm only really successful in England. English people love their musicians completely different than Germans. So the big thing you can see, English have a musician union, nothing, and that in Germany. And we don't have all these wonderful clubs in German cities, in small cities, in all the little towns where musicians can bring their art on stages to the people. And the English society loves their artists.
Yeah.
And that's not in Germany. Some of them, which make Schlager, but I'm not a fan of Schlager.
Peter, what do you think about what Wolfgang just said? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a massive amount to compare it to. I mean, I've obviously traveled around Europe with Wolfgang. We've done shows all over Europe, and we've had mostly really good experiences. But I'm so used to the fabric of the English cultural scene, if you like, because that's all I've ever known. But I do sometimes wander down the road to the trades club and just think, wow, you can just walk through a door, and 10 minutes down the road, and you can see such incredible stuff happening. I know it's not easy for all these venues, but the people seem to keep them going, and it's a very valuable thing, I think, for us here, and maybe we just take it for granted sometimes.
Interesting points. Thank you both for sharing. Okay, let's move into part 2 of this conversation. This is about process. This is what Jeff Tweedy says. To me, process is whatever act you engage in, whatever steps you can take, and whatever device you have at your disposal that you can use together that reliably results in the work of art. Process is also the only name I know of for whatever series of contortions and mental tricks we have available to lose ourselves in when we create. So, would either of you like to talk about the process of working together on this new album, Times?
I can start. I mean, yeah, I hear that. and process is everything, because we don't have a very set process. So an idea can come from anywhere. We might be traveling and to a show and might come up with an idea in a car, and then Wolf will go off and take that idea somewhere and give it to me, and I'll take it somewhere, and sometimes the noises, can come from anywhere as well. We can record sounds when you're out and about. So, in terms of process, is just such a huge all-encompassing term for what we do. I couldn't put it down to any one specific. I couldn't define it in any one specific way, because some of the songs, like Wolfgang said earlier, some of the tracks we worked on took years to finish. Because they weren't finished as far as we were concerned, but some were done very quickly. In a matter of days even. So the process changes depending on the piece, and it's always different. But we always get there in the end somehow. Yeah.
Do you thrive on process? Do you really enjoy that experience?
I have a kind of weird thing where when I'm in my studio, and an idea suddenly takes hold, I can suddenly just forget. I don't know. It's almost like someone else is taking control, and you don't remember what you did. So I almost don't think, in a way. It just happens. It's like someone's controlling everything, without me knowing. It's like, I think it's something to do with connecting your subconscious and the dreamy side of you, somehow connecting that with the work that comes out. And I don't know. I think when the only times it doesn't work is when I do try it too hard, and sometimes you put pressure on yourself that the process must happen, because, some people just say, which I don't necessarily agree with. Some people say you've just got to stay in the studio and just stay there day after day until it works. And I don't think that's true. I think you might as well just be somewhere else doing something. If nothing's happening, you might as well be doing something more interesting somewhere else, right? But when it's happening, you've got to get in there and you've got to let it all happen. I don't know if that's answered your question, but that's how I feel about the word process, in a way.
Wolfgang, would you like to respond to what Peter said, or what Jeff Tweedy thinks about process?
For me, the process of creating music and a pop music track with all parts to collect together is most fun. And I think I relish that, really. I don't know anything what is more fun to me in my life, since I detected my own talents, I did not know they were in me when I was so many years with Kraftwerk, because they didn't ask me and they didn't push me. I was that drummer and that was it. So I had to get everything out of my brain, out of my heart myself, without support from anyone else. So that was the best to make me proud on that what was given to me from my parents and for God, So talent is all. Talent is everything. Without a talent, you cannot make music. So you make something else. You go to the bank, or you are the carpenter, or anything else. So I had both. I did build furniture, and that was my apprenticeship. And then I went to Kraftwerk. I was a model, and I played on the stage. I played the robot, and then it was that, And then I learned the other talents to know. Very, very, one after the other, very little in the start. And that improved and became better and better over the years. And I couldn't be more happy in my today's age. I really tell you, I'm 78 now, and I feel 20 years younger because, of course, I have much love to my friends, my parents, Peter and his family, my wife, and we have a big friend circle here in Düsseldorf with artists as well. And that is a very, very important thing, that you have a good bed, I say bed like that, where you can feel safe for creating music. If I think I had a bad neighborhood, I cannot believe that I make good music then. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
So, yeah, the process is many, many factors are helping in a good process. And just process comes from different points into a track. One example. I was a fan of Juan Atkins. So who is it not, by the way? He had a track which I heard some years ago, an older track from the 80s. I think the track was called track 10. And in track 10, there was a bass line, which I really fell in love with. It was a very brutal and arrogant synth line. So I wanted to have that. And I became friendly with him, with Juan, together with Peter, when he played in the Barbican Hall in London, the start of it, or the opening of his Cybertron tour. So it was some years ago. And fortunately, we got in contact with him, and we had some nice talks in his artist flat in London. And we spoke some things together, not on that date, but some time later. I met him again in Paris when we both played our shows, but unfortunately on the same night, so we couldn't visit us. But we had a nice dinner with his girlfriend, and I'm with my wife in an Italian restaurant. Then came up the first time that I spoke with idea that said, I want something from you. It's only eating. And he was very interested. What could it be, Wolfgang? I want your bass line. I said, which way? And then I sang it to him. I said, he found that out. So I sang it not too bad, that he said, oh, that's from track 10, right? I said, yeah, it is from track 10. Could I have it separated from your track? Only this stem. Oh, he said, let me see what I can do for you when I'm back in Detroit. When he was back in Detroit, I told Peter that, and he said he will never get an answer. And it was nearly true. He was lazy. This Juan is not lazy, but this Juan was lazy. And it needed nearly 6 months, so a half year, to get at least a WhatsApp. We were on WhatsApp meanwhile, when Peter and I were the last 2 days before Corona started, and all flights and all hotel bookings were closed due to Corona. We came from Aberdeen on a car drive with a rental car to Peter. Where did we go?
Newcastle, maybe Edinburgh.
No,
It was down the east coast of Scotland.
yeah.
Edinburgh, I think. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and I had a call. I had a WhatsApp just with the 3 words like that, just like that, and then came a sound. That was originally that track, what he played separated. But he said, I had always tried to find it, and I didn't find it because it was recorded with the first digital recording machine, an ADAT, and that was cartridges then, with 8-track cartridges, and the machine did not work anymore. So I could not use the cartridge to separate this track. I had to play it new for you. How was it? And I said, it was brilliant. But if you are already on, well, maybe you can give us some others as well, some variations maybe. And he sent us 3 variations as well from this melody, which we used, one of the first, in Billionaire on the Magazine 1 album. And the second, the original one, which I wanted, is this one we have used now in the first track of the Times album in Posh, because it is posh. This sound was posh. And that the idea came up in this drive from Aberdeen to
Edinburgh. Yeah.
City. And
a crazy time.
Phone. And someone of us, Peter or I, said, that sounds pretty posh, doesn't it? What? I like this word. Let's make a song on posh girls of London, because we knew one. And we made the song on her. So that is the process what we are talking about,
I love it.
Fortunately, we had only this bass, and Peter is very good one. He knows if he puts that into his machine, he has immediately some of his wonderful arpeggios and the tonality, and we had already the first backing, which he sends to me. And then I write the lyrics and I try to sing. I developed the singing melody, and I had one of my Dusseldorf girlfriends singing the posh. She's posh, 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 posh. Different sounds, different tonalities to fill that in. And the construction and the arrangement started pretty soon. That about
it happened quickly, that one, yeah.
She's that girl from the upper town. She loves shopping, no cash down. All she needs is a credit card. Careless with an empty heart. 'Cause she is close. 'Cause prudence is not a thing. She only covers the bling bling. Selfishness, the strategy, material bliss for all to see. 'Cause she is
That is very interesting. And let's talk more about this new album that came out in March, of this year.
Right.
I'm going to pick the first track. We're going to listen to a little bit of this. And this is called Far Away from the Times album. Let's take a listen.
She lets him know she needs to go. She wants to walk. He needs to talk. All what they say is so far away. The truth is twisted, mistakes being listed. She lets him know I need to go. Dream, he woke up in a scream. His voice cried out, there's no way out.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you right now, Wolfgang and Peter, why I picked this song. And then I want to get more of your analysis, your takes, anything you want to share. Around the 3-minute mark, this song becomes of such beauty, of such melody. And it was so striking to me as I was listening to it. It kind of took me to that flavor of Kraftwerk, but definitely more contemporary sounding. And after that 3-minute mark, it goes into kind of this interesting, I don't know if you would call it a bridge, a middle eight, I'm not sure. And then it goes back to that beautiful, beautiful synth part. So hats off to you on this song. I think it's one of your best tracks on this album. So I would love to hear from either of you two more about your take on Far Away.
So Far Away was actually one of the it's one of the very earliest songs we started in a way. It was called something else back then. Probably the second piece of music we worked on. And then it developed and it changed multiple times over the years. It never was quite what it was meant to be until it ended up as Far Away.
Do you remember that we fixed it together from 2 different songs from your SoundCloud?
Yeah. So it's 2.
These parts are completely different parts on a SoundCloud. And I said to him, from my view, we can make one track from them and have a completely change inside, which then goes back to the other part, That is the visionary in me.
Yeah, so I wrote lots of little... I wrote lots of sketches and I had them all on a SoundCloud. They were just little sketches for a film idea, like a soundtrack idea for a film. They all had different names that was suited to this mythical film. Yeah, and Wolfgang said to me that you should put these two, and I thought there's no way these 2 pieces will work together. That's ridiculous. So, but he said, no, try it.
I already saw that film, what is happening from this couple, which are divorcing, she leaves him, It's a very sad and very hard story.
Yeah.
And it's not something new to couples which have such very, very sad and awful situations when she says, I have to go.
Yeah.
Let's live alone now,
And so that
the second part came in with this harsh part where they say all these nasty and lovely things together on the stereo panorama, and the fight goes there and back and back and there, until at least they are thrown out, and then comes this wonderful and really sad synthesizer melody with just it's love.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing sometimes. I would never have thought of putting those two pieces of music, and they probably would have just ended up just drifting away into the abyss of SoundCloud somewhere. But, Wolf saw something in those two pieces together. So I tried it and I was like, oh, he's right, I think Wolfgang was right. It actually works. And I would never have thought about it. So that part of the process is very beautiful as well.
Well, that process that you're talking about with the song, it's beautifully layered and textured. And I feel like it takes the listener on this aural journey. And yeah, it's a good one. Wolfgang, do you want to share anything else about that song before we talk about another one?
No, I think I have described enough from that, how we work together, this process, and how I see what is happening inside the actor in me. And at least I thought it could be myself, I'm 85 and you can believe, no, 78, sorry, 78. And you can believe that I had some relationships already with some very beautiful and nice girls. So the one or other ended also very not so nice. So it was a little bit from my life.
I see. Thank you for sharing. Okay, I'm going to read second to last quote here. This is about obstacles. This is what Jeff says. Now that you are a songwriter, we're going to have to answer some more difficult questions.
Oh my God.
And to fight off some pretty nasty comments. No, I'm not talking about the internet. The calls are coming from inside the house. Primarily, you're going to have to respond to the interrogations that your doubts and insecurities are going to hit you daily. Challenges, doubts, insecurities. How did that show up at any way in the creation of this album? Peter, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think we touched on this a little bit before, where I think, the more experienced you get, it's very difficult when you put pressure on yourself to do something and you think, it's a constant challenge of any artist. You think, oh, has it gone? Has it gone forever? I haven't written a good piece of music for however many weeks or months, and maybe it will never happen again. But the problem is when you do that, that's when it doesn't happen. It's like, when you're young and you're looking for a relationship, you're trying too hard, it doesn't happen. And then when you find just be yourself and find a bit of peace, then all this stuff comes to you, I find. So it's the same with music and art. I've always had a belief that I will always write because I know I have to, because it's just part of me. It's part of why I am who I am. I didn't go into music because I thought it would be cool or something. It's just something that kind of like found its way to me almost. So I trust that, and I think the obstacles come, but I think the older you get and the more you overcome these obstacles just by trusting your instinct and trusting the fact that eventually something will appear, then you're just that much more relaxed with it. It is very much like a relationship. You have to just not fret too much sometimes,
Wolfgang, would you like to talk about any challenges that came about for this album?
And I say always, yes, I like challenges, by the way, because I want to prove myself what is still further in me,
Yeah.
So it's that's such a good experience to detect my brain, to detect my heart, and how good that functions together. My wife says that always. You are so special, and I think I am special because when I compare with my twin brother, he became a doctor of medicine, it could be something similar, you know. I think doctors of medicine and artists have something similar. They give something to the people, you know, they heal them, and music heals. And my brother heals also his patients in another way. And he said always, the music you are doing is also good for the souls of the people who are ill. There are some tracks they could use really for healing their hurt souls, you know, brains. And no, challenge is something which does not, I don't fear challenges. I like them because I have something to do. I have something to think about, you know. I'm very thankful for having orders. I give orders to me, right?
Mhm.
And my own order. I give orders to me, and that's the challenge. And how far can we go together with Peter and also me on my own to develop something, an idea which is very little in the start, and it becomes bigger and bigger. And sometimes I get so ideas from above, you know, they fell into my computer, into my songwriting, into the stems, maybe also by a mistake of my little synthesizer or by a mistake from anything else. But then I say, thank you for this little mistake. This is absolutely needed on that place. That is the challenge. That is what I'm looking for. And I'm thankful for it when that happens.
So Wolfgang, I do want to continue this part of accepting and embracing challenges. Have you always been like that? Or is that something you've learned over time?
No, I think that's the education from my parents, from my mother. I was always a person who was not fearing life. I was always happy and engaged and encouraged.
I see. That's a great outlook for life. That's something I used to try to teach my students all the time.
Yeah, supported with love, with education from the parents is so important. That keeps you a young man or a young lady that she can or he can develop, you know.
Yeah.
But it's not held back from anything.
But I think you touched on something that's really important, not just for musicians and artists, for everyone, right?
Yeah.
To go through that strife, to go through that inner conflict, and to embrace it, because you're going to learn so much about yourself.
That's a common thing.
Yeah, good stuff here. Okay, this next track, Birmingham, you want to talk about?
Composers and inventors, no place for pretenders. Meet me in the West Midlands, watching from a higher stance, like an old woman of sense.
Yeah, Birmingham was the first. Yeah, you start this time.
Because that was something that was our first track when we started our conversation. I said, that was my first idea working together on a track. That was when Peter gave me the idea and the link to his SoundCloud, and I heard this track as the first. And it had already the title Birmingham. And I loved it, you know. And I loved the first time listening to his wonderful arpeggios, his creative arrangement. And it was something that really touched me. And I asked him, why Birmingham? And he said, because that's an homage to my birth town. I have an Indian family, but I lived in Birmingham and I was born there, and I know it like no one else, you know. Of course, Peter has lived in many other cities during he was a student and musician, but his mother is still in Birmingham, and we have visited her. She visited us in a concert in Birmingham, and we played Birmingham often, meanwhile, together in clubs, theaters, and anything what presents music. So my idea came to make to go further, and I write lyrics on it, and I had to learn about it. Then I took the dictionary and the lexica, which everything what I could get info, also in the internet. What makes this interesting city so as it is today, so mixed up with so many cultures, like no other city I have seen, even more than London, and especially, yes, Peter's family, Indians, many Indians, Pakistanis, and so much. I included them all, what I found out in a narration part in the track, And I learned so much about why it is so loud there, because of the steel companies, the factories, and the children of them, mostly the boys, they imitated that noise and created heavy metal music. And I always was thinking that comes from America. How wrong I was. That was Birmingham. I had to learn so much about that little city, that medium city. It's not little, it's medium sized. But anyway, it is also one of my loveliest city from England. I love it more than London. London is a moloch, but Birmingham is better to me. And my wife also likes it. So we came to the result, we make a song on that. So the first thing, I always write lyrics. That's for sure. And during lyrics writing and during the lyrics reading, I learn immediately the melody, how to sing them. So the rhymes,
Yes.
And we were already on that part to record them, but I was not so much used in that time for my own singing. I was too shy, I must explain. And we asked Andy McCluskey, a friend of mine, if he would like to collaborate with us and sing this song. And he said, no, strictly no. I'm a Liverpooler. I cannot sing a song on Birmingham. That was a harsh.
Oh, no. Wow. I did not know that.
Honestly, I was a little bit shocked that he said no so strictly. There is no chance, Wolfgang. And then I had to think about anyone else. We were looking to it. I like the voice of John Fox. I like the voice of this Phil Oakey. And I met Phil Oakey, and I must say, he was unfortunately pretty arrogant to me. With another no, he did not say anything. Not a yes, not a no. He just left my talk. I met him live on a Belgium open air concert when I played behind him. He played with his band before me, and I met him in the backfields, and I spoke with him about. I gave him our album and said, on the next album there is one on. Could you think? And he just left me. He did not. Maybe he did not know who I was. He thought maybe any pensioner or so, something like that was on the field. This old man talking to me. I'm a famous person, He's very tall, and he looked down to me very arrogant way. Anyway, that was done. And then I had the great idea to call my old friend Claudia Brücken from former Propaganda. She's also Düsseldorf living and mostly living in London. And she said immediately, yes, that's a challenge to me. I would love to do that. And then the next process started. She recorded in London in the studio of OMD, but not Andy.
No Andy.
No Andy there, but his partner was the recorder. She was engaged a little time with his partner. And he was a recorder. He owns the studio. Anyway, that was a very good decision. Yeah. And we like her voice so much in the track.
Yeah.
It's gold. It's
a beautiful vocal. Her voice is just so distinctively beautiful. I love it. Yeah. One of the things that has always fascinated me was, Birmingham is like a pretty downtrodden, a derided place, I would say, in England. It's regarded as a bit of a backwater, somewhere you could travel past on your way. It's somewhere more interesting. So it always fascinated me to call a piece of music Birmingham, because it's like, well, why would you do that? It's like, it's not San Francisco or Miami or Tokyo. It's like Birmingham,
maybe I gave Peter another new view on his birth town, because I was more proud of that, like him, because he was so used to it. He was born there. That's normal, normal area. But for me, it was something special, and he learned it new to love this city.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think what Wolfgang was saying about the mix of people there. Blend the sound and the art and the culture that all came out of that as a result of it was something very, very beautiful and interesting, and so many interesting artists and so much interesting music came from Birmingham that a lot of people forget. I mean, Ozzy Osbourne grew up just down the road from where I grew up, and heavy metal was born just up the road from where I was born, and Steve Winwood was actually born in the house 4 doors away from us. It's bizarre.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Nor did I until not long ago, actually. I don't think he was there for very long, but he was in Birmingham. UB40, obviously, Duran Duran and all those bands. And then my cousin, Apache Indian, became quite famous, especially over here, as he was mixing the Indian and the reggae thing together. And, there lots and lots of different interesting things came out of Birmingham.
The Duran Duran boys once? Have you met them?
For me or William?
No. The Duran Duran boys next to your door.
Yeah. And no, I've not met them, but my mum actually lives just not far from where that main studio was in King's Heath, where all of those songs were recorded,
But I met them in Düsseldorf. In Düsseldorf. They played here some months ago. They are really, really funny guys in the backstage.
Yeah. Maybe that's going to be a song for the next album.
You can be sure.
I do want to ask both of you before we wrap this up. I mean, come on. The collaborations with some of these people, James Chapman, Maps, love James. Who else do we have? Peter Hook, Carl Cox. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. I mean, this is it must be such an honor for them and for you to work with all these people. Yeah. Who wants to respond to that?
Yeah, as I do that because I have invited them. The first idea for collaborations came much, much earlier with the track I did with Bon Harris of Mitza App. So they played in Düsseldorf in a big hall as a support band of, what was that? They supported a big English band. I can't remember. I was invited there to the backstage room of them, because Daniel Miller was there, and he had my book, I Was a Robot, my autobiography. I wanted to have signed it. And Nizza App were on a German label here of Hajo Leverance, who was friendly with Hajo Leverance is from U96, this famous techno band, And he invited me. And I was immediately friendly with Bon. He's like Peter, so grounded, friendly. So what do you need more than shaking hands? And he asked me, Wolfgang, it's such an honor. I had just the idea, my goodness, should we not do something together? And I said, I liked your music much more than the main act on the stage, You were brutal good. I did not know about EBM music, what that is, but it was something what really touched me. They had 2 drummers. They were much better than me I was when I was young. It's brutal good, And Depeche Mode was the main band, Depeche Mode is not really a music which touches me. So, but Nizza App, they were good. They were good. And then that started, and he sent and said, how can we make a process that it works? He said, if you have any music that is not developed to the end, just any soundtrack, I speak with Peter. I'm a visionary. Send me something. And he sent me 3 tracks, and one of them was immediately something for me. And I had already recorded lyrics for the track, which was on a completely different ending, which I did not like too much, but it fitted much more here. And what was the title of Enemy? Oh my goodness, what was the title? I'm getting old. It's so long ago. Axis of Envy. And I love to slip to roads of an evil person, and I'm the envy. And I was not singing, but I was shouting and crying and talking with a narrator, with an actor inside of that, and put one melody in. Not much more from me. But one was absolutely flabbergasted when he had that. And I said, what have you done with that track? It's amazing, you know. And that was so much fun that I knew I could invite nearly everyone in the world of musicians if I am friendly enough and if I have a good idea for something to catch someone, you know. And that was just the start. And sometimes we met someone during our travels or on the airport. Some of them call me and ask me, Wolfgang, via Messenger or on the internet or so. I said, yeah, why not? And so, do you have an idea? You see, another example is Mitch Ure. He had 2 concerts in Düsseldorf, and I met him both times in the backstage. And he's also someone like Peter, grounded and friendly. We had some drinks together, I must confess, a little bit more than 2 drinks, maybe 3. He did not want to leave the backstage. So funny was that, you know. And then he invited me for the next show, which was a year later in a bigger hall. And there he came with a little glass of Sekt, in that's German, and the French say champagne. Came over with 2 glasses and we roasted it. Cheers, ding, ding. And he said, Wolf, I have an idea. We do a song together. I said, yeah? Why do you already know that? Because I wanted to ask you that. He said, I know it earlier than you. And I have already an idea. But I can't tell you the idea now. I must think a little bit further and I will contact you soon. And you know what he said when he contacted me via email? We changed emails then. He said, Wolfgang, the track is called Das Beat. Not the beat, but the German article, Das Beat.
Uh-huh.
And I said, well, yeah, why that? Yeah, because for us musicians, you are Das Beat. You developed the first electronic trumpet board, you know, and for all the electronic pop music, this is the model for anything what the industry built better than maybe later. But you were the first, and you made this minimalism drumming very famous to the world, to all the others who copied that style. And at least it was good for me to hear that, because I did not use it from that angle, you know. But he said, that's absolutely, and you are underestimated from your band former. So we make a song on you. It's my homage on you. And he said, he sent some already recorded singings that were wonderful. And I said, okay, we do a duo. And I trained a little bit more my singing, and I wrote my own lyrics. And so we were suddenly in a duo, and a singing duo. Everyone had his sentences, you know, and that was a track, Peter. You can say that too. We developed pretty fast because it was nearly pre-recorded from his parts, you know, and we added our stems and Peter's wonderful arpeggios, and we created the arrangement different than his was, because we said, okay, we make 2 different versions, one for my album and one for your album. So, and then
it worked well. That one, it worked really well.
Yeah,
he's got an incredible voice as well.
Yeah, I mean that's mid-year, right? And that's off Magazine One, track number 4. So you got your little homage, and Peter got your homage there with Birmingham.
Correct.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah, as I mentioned, chat.
We did not see that from that angle, Peter, don't we?
No. Yeah, that's the first time. Yeah.
What's coming down the line for you two for the rest of the year or 2026? Anything you want to share?
I mean,
we've been doing a lot of shows, recently. So touring really at the moment, isn't it, Wolf? And I think we want to write more as soon as we've got this batch of shows behind us. So we've got.
We must earn money now. You cannot earn money with record selling. This time is over for all times. You know, nobody pays our music. I mean, that is another story. But we like to be on tour. That is the other thing. Of course, do we also like to make money with the ticket sales, and so we have very, very often full houses or even double shows on a weekend, on a Friday, and the next one on the Saturday. And as in England, it is wonderful. And sometimes when the fee is big enough, I can invite him also for European tracks. He travels to Oslo, to Barcelona, to Netherlands, where we've all been, or Malta, where we have been 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
And this is so wonderful having, we feel familiar. So that is good to meet my brother.
Yeah. It's like a holiday with a gig in between.
Yeah.
Could you conceive the idea? Could you possibly entertain the idea of coming to America together?
I was not together, because I was in America several times, but with my show, through another collaboration with the Mexican famous band Nortec Collective. So I was friendly with Juan Atkins. No, not Juan Atkins, with
Ramon.
Ramon Amezcua,
Ramon.
yes. Ramon.
Oh, yeah.
Ramon is the head of the Nortec Collective, and he played the support of my first 6 days tour in Mexico for my Musiksoldat show. I did not know Peter then. That was in 2012 or 2013, and we got friendly. And then we also thought later on, when we come back, and it was a second time and a third time, I made a track with the Moda Machina. It's also a track which I did in collaborating with them for their album, not for my album. But it is on my 2015 album. I suddenly got a contract with an English label, Cherry Red Records. They took me under contract, and since then it runs well. So we did now the third album with them.
Yeah.
And you know what a little secret now, I can tell you, because I'm allowed to. My first album, The Time Pie, which was with EMI Cologne, was not out in England, and that was a fault from them. They mistaken my contract and put it away in their cupboard and did not tell anyone from that album. Yeah, there were several political reasons which brought me really down. But now, a Cherry Red had bought with much money, hot back the rights from Universal. And they bring it out next year. The first time The Time Pie is a wonderful album, comes finally out in England. I'm very much looking forward to that.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, you're talking about the process, But anyway,
Okay.
I'll speak about the next year anytime.
Got it.
That's in preparation now. So why did we come up to that track, to the label?
America.
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 Yeah. And America. I come to America. I was in America. I was invited to the Lincoln Fest. That is every 2 years, I think, in New York. And there's a big fest for all kinds of music from abroad and from inside of the country. Every style, and classical music, pop music. So the collective, Nortec Collective, were also invited, and they did a big show in an open air area, in a big tent. It was wonderful. And I was invited to play only this one collaboration song which we did together.
Just one.
Moda Machina, which was so good. So they paid everything. A very expensive working license, the flights in business style, a 5-star hotel, a big fee, and everything back to Düsseldorf, just for being 5 minutes with Nortec on the stage. This was America.
That is lovely. Peter, are you working on anything? Any post Lazelle's drone survey stuff?
Always working, always writing things, and
Yeah.
there's lots of ideas floating around. And
Okay.
me and Wolf are going to start talking about working on some new stuff together as well soon. So,
But
yeah,
if
it's
you
all
went to
good.
America,
It's all
we
good.
did it together. If we go to America again once in the future, after this trumpeter Donald Duck is gone, then we go. Yeah, I'm honest. Only then.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I'll be waiting
Yeah.
for you guys in San
I
Francisco.
only hope it lasts not so long.
Thank you, both of you. This has been a really... Peter?
Yeah, is it okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's been great.
The last
It's been a
word.
great chat.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.